Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Andrea. Andrea is the debut author of the children's book In My Magical Bubble. And we have a copy of the book at the front of the room if anyone would like to take a look at that. Andrea, by day, is a screening officer and by night is a blogger. She received her Bachelor of Arts in Advertising and Communication from Autónoma de Occidente University. In addition to working on her son's blog and being a dedicated mother, she has recently fought her own personal battle with cancer. Most recently, Andrea has been a host for season 3 of our Slice of Pie, a podcast sponsored by Immunity Canada. She is also a strong SCID advocate and enthusiastic board member. Born in Colombia and now living in Canada, Andrea is a lover of naps, music, and all types of projects. Warm welcome to Andrea. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. Should I just put it like, I'm gonna do this. There you go. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to talk about Jacob's story for sure. Yeah. Should I just click? Click?
Just push this one. Oh, there we go. And I can hide this.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. As Dave mentioned, I'm a really happy board member of Immunity Canada, and I'm really happy to share with all of you the journey of my son's journey, whose name is Jacob. Oops. This one?
Oh. Oh, it's this one here. Oh, weird. There we go.
So still with that one? Okay.
Just that one, yeah.
Yeah, that one. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so around 2019, thanks to the newborn screening test implemented by here in Alberta around July 2019, thanks to the incredible work of Dr. Nicola Wright and her team, Jacob, my son, he was diagnosed with ADA SCID. In other words, is what we call a boy with a no immune system. A SCID goes by severe combined immunodeficiency. The news of his condition came with such an amount of words and explanations and information that it was very complex and made our roles as new parents very blurred and confusing and traumatic at the time. Being told that my son might not survive his second birthday was really complex for us. It was very traumatic and somehow devastating in terms of the news, and it froze me completely. Children with ADA, they build this type of toxicity, which it can damage their brain, their lungs, their kidneys, and their hearing. So for that reason, it's very complex to understand what kind of steps to take after the diagnosis, and it also kind of watch your child kind of slowly shut down to make that part of your memory of being a new mom is very complex. The lack of ADA in Jacob's body was already creating those toxic levels. So while the team of doctors were trying to do their best to save his life, we started a petition to the out-of-country committee to request approval to go to Italy for, for a treatment called in that time Stronvelis, a type of gene therapy that could save his life. Unfortunately, we got denied not once, but twice. And somehow the lack of trust that Canada has for gene therapies or clinical trials at the moment. We try our best with the Minister of Health, and despite any type of letter that we got from other doctors trying to support the treatment, we still got denied. Here's where we started our fight for Jacob, and we went to TV, radio. I started with the book. I tried my best to create a voice for my child. And it took us so far until we were able to take his name to the House of Commons. Oops. Yeah. How about you? Knowing that our government will not support us financially, then we ask, what do we need to make it possible? How can we make it possible? The answer in that moment was, if you want your child to be treated in Italy, you will need $1.5 million just for the gene therapy. We're not talking about hotel, travel, food, anything like that. Imagine that in the shoulders of a parent. So while we were doing every single activity to raise funds, we also had to start considering the options that my son had. So when we talk about medical ADAs, kid with children with medical conditions, kind of like the options that they have, for example, are bone marrow match. We started a campaign with Canadian Blood Services and Swap the World to search for a match, for an unrelated match. Unfortunately, Jacob is a mix of Hispanic from my side and also Polish or Caucasian from my husband's side. So it is really complex to really find a match for Jacob. The next option that he had was a haplo or a sibling match. And Jacob does not have a sibling. And considering a haplo, which is half of your mom or half of your dad's cells, it is pretty much for us like tossing a coin to try to save our child. And it is also a big responsibility where you're trying to take decisions over your child. Then he has right now what we call IG or plasma infusions. So every month, once a month, Jacob attends his IVIG appointments to obtain the antibodies that his body cannot create. And he has grown thinking that is a normal thing to go once a month to hospital and sits approximately for 4 hours patiently to do the process. Enzyme replacement therapy is pretty much the injection that our doctors will plea every year for it. It's a very expensive injection. So we're talking about that each shot of enzyme replacement therapy costs approximately $12,000. Jacob will receive 3 shots per week. So the number is really high when we talk about that injection, but that one is the one that will keep him alive. Gene therapy then is a stem cell transplant where the patient is his own donor. They take the cells from the patient, they put it back in the lab, mix it with a virus, and then the child receives a little bit of chemotherapy, and then he receives back his bone marrow fix. Something that is only for ADA skid patients right now and only available in California at the moment, thanks to the work of Dr. Khan. So here you have a child who is resilient enough, courageous, kind, thinking that is very normal to be poked every week. That he has his hospital visits, that he learns how to negotiate if he cannot go to the park, and understands that counting more than 4 friends, your little friends, is probably not the best for your health. And on the other side, you have, 2 parents trying to do their best to allow their kid to have some sort of normal life and also try not to get sick and try to get him private lessons because he cannot join other people and to minimize infections or colds. So the type of medical trauma that we have to go through is a medical trauma that is together, right? The child and the parents as well who are leading the journey. But here's the thing. Every family that has to go through a medical condition, be certain that they are not just concentrated on that condition. They have many things around the medical condition, other challenges like financial situations, substance abuse, family violence, or diagnosis like mine. In December 2020, I was diagnosed with cancer, an incredible, challenging time for a family. So while I was doing chemotherapy and I was doing radiation and I was thinking if I was gonna survive the condition, I was thinking, how am I gonna make it if I have a child that also needs to make it? How am I gonna be there for him? So we were still trying to find a cure for our son. And I'm asking myself, am I gonna actually make it? Am I gonna be able to survive this and see my child survive his own medical condition? So we went, I think for being parents of a very complex condition, we tried our best to go beyond our child and the condition that he had. We started fighting really hard. We parents of sick children, which you will see very commonly with other parents, they fight, they wait, they write letters to everybody and keep on waiting. It's exhausting. My advocacy for Jacob's journey is just a reflection of what many patients with PI or rare genetic conditions have to go through. I have centered my fight into the lack of access and the cost efficiency of medicine versus curative therapies out there, because I think that that is the biggest challenge that it comes with Jacob. Having Italy so far and with an impossible cost to raise for treatment and no government support from our side, then we have no other option but to keep our child isolated and without the option of school or daycare or play dates, and for us as parents to try to juggle financially the best that we could in order to work and still provide and still save money for any possible treatment in the future. Jacob could have been cured in the early ages of his life for around $1.5 million or even less if gene therapy was available in Canada. 4.5 years is the time we had to wait to save our child, and the cost of his medication until now has been approximately between $6 to $8 million. Money that could go to other children or patients that urgently need that money as well for special medication to survive their conditions as well. From the moment that we realized our options were so limited, we then decided to follow the waiting list of patients for gene therapy at UCLA. So in California, they have a clinical trial. And this is supported by CRM and created by the most amazing and kind man, I think, Dr. Khan, who is trying to give ADA patients, just like Jacob, an opportunity to be part of this clinical trial, to impact their life and to give them a life opportunity in reality. And I feel that with that treatment, at least from the side of Jacob, we will be able to show Canada the necessary steps to bring gene therapies here and allow the access for treatment that many other patients are urgently seeking. What is the reality right now? So this is a picture from Jacob's transplant. Today we're beyond thankful to say that Jacob was patient number 5 in the current trial of ADA SCID patients who will have a life opportunity. He started this process in May and he received his gene therapy or stem cell transplant on July 19 of this year. Reason why we want to express how significant our support means to the efforts of researching new gene therapies for SCID and new opportunities for other clinical trials that could assist pediatric patients as they are expected to improve outcomes and reduce complications compared to transplant or other medical procedures. Therapies that will involve less chemotherapy, just exactly what happened to Jacob, and shorter hospital stays, and that will soothe the urgent process of finding a match donor. Not every family has the possibility of finding a match donor just like us. Working together with Immunity Canada and supporting their awareness campaigns will create an incredible impact on Canadian families that don't have the funds or resources to travel to other countries. Let's remember that Jacob, the only opportunity that he had was to access gene therapy, but by traveling to California, by traveling to another country, with significant financial challenges, a long waiting list to access clinical trials, and the Alberta government not being willing to pay for a commercialized therapy that could save his life. A reality that many Canadian families have to face right now as we speak. This is or Dr. Jacob, or he loves Dr. Khan has a very iconic mustache, and this is my son who always likes to be like Dr. Mustache as well. We believe that Jacob or Edmonton Bubble Boy will be able to show the government of Canada the impact that gene therapy and clinical trials can create for many patients as an inspiration to all of us to keep working hard for this network, addressing the potential and at the same time the financial relief for our healthcare system, the recognition of the word inclusiveness as part of our core values, and the evolution on curative therapies that will give families many more days with their 6 children, just like we want fiercely for Jacob to have next to us. I usually finish when I talk to others about Jacob's condition. I always like to say that I hope that people, when they see my son, they think that he's not just my son. I hope that they are able to take them as their own. Is this your kid? So what are you going to do with this child that is now yours? How many stones are you going to flip upside down for him? Because this child is yours. When we are able to put a face to the condition and when we are able to make it more personal, then I think that's when we start grabbing contacts from our cell phone, thinking, who am I going to email? Who am I going to write to? And it happens to every patient. So I think that when we think about patients with rare conditions or immunodeficiencies, that is my mother, that is my brother, this is my kid. What am I going to do for them? That's how we are able to move boulders for others. So this is our story, and thank you so much.